Ask the Podcast Coach for December 4th, 2021.
Let's get ready to podcast.
There it is. It's that music. Is it too loud, too soft?
I think it's okay.
Okay. We're playing with new tunes, new toys. Welcome to Ask the Podcast Coach, where you get your podcast questions answered live. I'm Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting.com, and joining me right over there, the one and only Jim Cullison from theaverageguy.tv. Jim, how's it going, buddy?
Greetings, Dave. Happy Saturday morning to you. I like when you have to go over your head when you could just do this.
I would take, because if I let my finger off the fader, it'll
do its thing.
Yeah.
We're getting some extreme ducking, and I don't know if that's StreamYard or you've got some new equipment, so I'll have to kind of monitor that.
I can check that. It is an annoying feature. I'm using the Tascam Mixcast 4 this morning, and oh boy, once you press record, are
you locked in then at that point?
Yeah, let me see, because I know under voice settings, they do have some cool stuff in here. You know what, we'll get to this after a second, because we do have to mention wait a minute, if I go back to the main screen, yes, I now know which button to push, because I know you're thirsty. Aren't you thirsty?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I was paying attention to this chat room. You better believe I'm thirsty. Let's see if we can do this thing.
That's the wrong button. Here, you want this one. There we go. Oh, my God.
We're kind of a mess this morning.
Yes, exactly. And that's not that. We don't know what's going on. It's dogs and cats living together.
Oh, it's so great.
But we do want to talk about Mark over at podcastbranding.co. If you need a logo, I was uploading my logo last night. I was applying to speak at Podfest, and they're like, upload your logo. And I'm like, ooh, there it is again. So if you need anything to look professional, whether it be a logo, your artwork, your whole website, then go over to podcastbranding.co and tell Mark that Dave and Jim sent you. And what's great about Mark is not only is he an award-winning graphic artist, he's also a podcaster. So he kind of gets the whole podcasting thing, and he's a pleasure to work with. He did the Ask the Podcast Coach artwork, podcast rodeo, and School of Podcasting. So I know what I'm talking about when I say the guy does good stuff. I'm not just saying this because, well, he's Canadian, and I was going to say he'd beat me up, but he's Canadian. No, he won't. So if you want to look better and feel confident about your artwork, go over to podcastbranding.co, and I would play music here, and Jim would sip his coffee, and
I'd slurp it, and then I go,
Yeah, I had somebody email that said they can't stand the coffee pour. And I emailed them. I said, is it the music? Is it the slurping? Like, what's? And I've yet to hear back. So I'm really
I'm sure it's the slurping. I'm 100% sure it's the slurping. That it probably drives folks nuts.
I'm on a Shure SM7B this morning, and it's
can I before you get into that, can I do the mug really quick?
Oh yes. Why do I keep
because we're totally off. It's funny how without the music, like, you get in these rhythms with this stuff, and then when they're gone, you doing the copy without the music, just not the same. Like, it's
because I kind of know how long to talk about it.
Yeah,
based on the music.
Yeah. So. No, it's different. Anyways, Dan Lefebvre over at Based on a True Story podcast, based on a true story podcast.com. If you need another podcast to listen to, long form, Dan really focuses on movies, programs, television shows based on true story. They talk a little bit about it. I have some great guests, very nerdy in that way. And so check it out, based on a true story podcast.com. Thanks, Dan.
And one of his guests, of course,
was Satan, and he came on and was like, hey, Dan, so happy to be here. So
that's another fun trick you can do. Now, can I change this while I'm recording? Survey says yes, I can go
my microphone settings, because I can also be
a Christmas elf. So, hey everybody, or I sound like Hitler on South Park.
What if in reality Satan actually sounded like that, and elves sounded like
eternal damnation is to you, Ha ha! I own your soul.
All right, yeah, not quite the
Just-
same.
Just hard to take that voice seriously.
Yeah,
You know.
and then,
Other thing that it does is you have a beep button. And what this does is it actually mutes yourself. It mutes you while it plays a beep. So I can say things like
And what are you using to do this, by the way?
the Tascam Mixcast 4.
There we go.
See, I still am on a lot of cold medicine.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah,
a
you're
little
fine.
droopy.
And a little adrenaline from trying to go live.
So if I say when I had to upgrade the firmware, it was kind of I got to make sure I do this right. Hassle. And my first impression was, wow, this thing's a piece of and I was like, what the did I buy? And so that's fun.
Yes.
You just have to practice with that because otherwise you'll end up saying naughty words.
Or you maybe are saying naughty words.
I am saying naughty
And
words.
that's okay
I'm
for
actually
some.
saying behind the scenes.
That's okay
you
for
know,
some.
and all those. I'm saying them all. So if you can read lips, you're like, hey, he actually just said mother. I did.
Yeah, in the video we see it. I think the 7B. Let's talk about the microphone really first, because there's some stuff going here in chat. Code 3 Podcast says he doesn't hear a substantial difference there.
Oh, you will.
Pest Control Nut says the slurping makes the spot. The I think the 7B sounds softer for you, and not volume softer, but like the quality of the sound is softer. It's just I like it more. I think you on the 320 sound a little more crunchy.
Well, on the 320, it's definitely clearer. There are more S's and T's, and I can go into
I don't know if I'd say clearer. I'd say more definition, and sometimes that definition's kind of harsh.
Yeah, you can overdo it with this.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas if I go to the SM7B, the S's and T's, now I can go in and boost the treble, and that's kind of my whole thing with microphones is you can always just tweak them with bass and treble.
Yeah.
Now, as I listen to this now, I'm like, that's a little where somebody went a little crazy with the treble on this when I was playing with this. But the other thing I've noticed, and I need to.
Can you turn? I'm sorry, even though I had you turn yourself down, would you turn yourself up just a smidge again?
Turn me up a bit.
Just
yes,
a bit.
so I can do that.
It's just okay. That's better.
And I think that's the other thing that I'm going to have to get used to is when you get away from this microphone, it's, I don't think I have a huge compressor on this. I do like their noise gate a little better, and you can go in and you can tweak things. But again, it's like, is it that much better than the Rodecaster? And I was like,
and no cloud lifter.
No cloud lifter.
You're not running, and that could make a little bit of a difference too. In putting that in between, you'll get a little more gain out of it that way.
Yeah.
I like. There's some. Jim Harold says he thinks the 320 sounds a little bit more broadcasty.
Yeah.
I think Gary likes the 320 as opposed to the 7B for you. Jim says the 320 sounds more like a top 40 DJ on FM, hopefully.
All right, coming in at you.
Pest Control Nut says, I've heard the SM7B needs more gain. I think.
Yeah, that is true. That and the high LPR 40 are super gain hungry. So right now I have their noise gate on, and right now I turned it off, and there's not a lot of noise.
Okay, is that affecting us though? When we to the noise gate, that's just you, right? That's not the two of us.
That's just me, yeah. So now it's back on, and I'm trying to find voice settings, dynamic. Somewhere in here, I get to tell it, maybe not while I'm recording, that not when you're recording. That's something I've noticed on this, which is kind of one of the things that I was like, ooh, that needs fixed. Because you can go in and say, I have a low voice, medium voice, that, and then you can go in and there's some really, the thing I like about it, like Rode calls theirs big bottom. Well, it's bass. It's bass is what it is. And then they have an exciter. Well, in Tascam, they called it bass and treble, which you can adjust when you're recording, it turns out. I was looking forward to doing that, but I can't. But you can go in and you can pick what frequency you want to boost and then turn up the gain. So that's what everybody's saying. Like, well, the Rodecaster has Aphex processing. And I was like, okay, yeah, it's bass and treble. And it's got a noise gate and it's got a compressor. And I haven't seen anything yet. The thing I like about this so far is on Jim's channel. I can go in and I can put a noise gate on Jim. Not that I need one, but also Jim just has a built-in
Satan voice. I mean, this is Jim. When he gets out of bed, he's like, "Hey, honey, put the coffee on."
And so he's got that deep voice already. And so I can go in, and there are times when it's like there's just more bass to his channel. And I was like, hold on. So I can go in and say, look, anything under like 100 hertz, like just cut it out, because that's the stuff you just feel anyway. And so I can do that on the USB channel. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I'm working on a tutorial. It's going to take a while to really, I know Kevin is like, but which one's better? And I was like, I'm not done playing with this one yet.
When did you get it?
It's funny. I got it last week. I didn't unbox it till yesterday. And I was like, oh, if I'm going to play with this tomorrow, because here's the thing. There's like, if you use OBS and sounds like a total, like, it's not a real problem, but I've got to go in and set up every scene and add a new input source. There was that. Again, when I was playing with, there's this weird thing. It's not weird, because you also have to do this in the Rodecaster. You either have it to where it's a 2-channel kind of input into your software, or you can go into their software, or if you want to dig into Windows, it's like settings, sound, advanced settings. It's like 5 clicks to get to this and say, okay, no, on the input, use 14. And when you do that, you can go into their software. But I found out that when I have it in this, hey, I've got all these inputs, I can't connect to SpeakPipe. I can't connect to OBS. There are a couple things that I was running into, and I'm like, so it's one of those things. And I went back and I plugged the Rodecaster in. I was like, well, what was I doing before? And I was like, oh, the Rodecaster was just in stereo mode. Like I don't record into software, because I could with a Rodecaster go into Hindenburg and say, just record me, Jim, and the jingle button. I can do that instead of recording them all on that. But I didn't. I was like, I'll just pull them off of the device. So it's so I'm learning all those things. Like, I thought that was a problem, and then I went back to the Rodecaster and went, oh wait, this was a problem on the Rodecaster too. I haven't quite played with that. Oh, there you go. Daniel says there's a tip. You don't have to add audio sources to scenes. Yeah, because I saw where you could add the default audio in there, and I was like, well, that would have solved the whole thing. But so what are you plugged into with voice effects? That's built into the Tascam. So you've got a compressor, you've got a noise gate, you've got bass and treble, you've got what's that 48 volt thingy? Yep.
Phantom power.
Phantom power. You've got that you can turn on, but they have these voice effects. Like, if I wanted to, I could make myself sound like I'm in the gym. Like, I could go in. Can I do that live? And say, which is, I guess, if I was using this to create music.
So reverb.
Yeah. So I could go
here and say, I don't want to be Satan anymore. I'm tired of Satan. So I could turn
that off. And I think, yes, I could turn this on. Yeah, because this is helpful. This is, wow, that's, and I'm very, very
well. But if you were, if you wanted to do that, hello,
right.
So
now I'm in a small room.
Anybody
kind
there?
of. Yeah, is anybody there? Hello. If I was doing, yeah, so I can go here, and now I'm in a giant room. Hello, is anyone home? Mom, Dad, Lassie. Yeah. So.
Or you're in a big culvert pipe. One of the two. Does sound like a big metal culvert pipe.
Yeah. So that's useful. And now I don't know how to turn there is a ducking feature on this. I see that. And it's really, if I turn it on, okay, so now the ducking is on, and
it's on for both of us?
For just me, because I'm channel 1. And in theory, if we both talk, you'll hear
so
me.
If I go over, if we talk over like this, we go.
Turned you down. I don't know if you can hear that.
I couldn't know.
I found that to be quite annoying. Even like I was playing with it earlier, and I was like, yeah, that's going away. There is a de-esser if I wanted to add it on the mic, but when you have a Shure SM7B, you're not worried about de-essing. It's more like, how do I get some treble into this thing?
All right, there we go. All right.
I was like,
Dave, Kevin's asking if you use any DAW when you work with your audio, such as Audition or Pro Tools.
I do. I'm a huge fan, like hands down, Hindenburg, which is now no longer Hindenburg Journalist. It's just Hindenburg. So yeah, when I get done with this, I throw it into Hindenburg. And why do I like Hindenburg? Because when you are done, like here, I kind of like the way this because you don't have to decipher anything. Like bass is called bass, treble is called treble, and in Hindenburg they have a feature for equalization, and when you turn it on, you have 3 knobs that say bass, middle, and treble. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Let me share my screen here real quick because I've got Hindenburg going on in the background, so you can see here where I've got bass, middle, and treble. If you have the Pro version and you want to remove some noise, like some hiss, it's a really good tool. And when you turn it on, you have a button, which is more. And I was like, okay, that works. Then if you want to have more effects and things, you can, add all sorts of VST effects. So I've got Shep's Omni-Channel, which basically replaces my DBX 286, because this is a compressor, gate, de-esser, equalizer. And so, yes, it doesn't have the effects. If you go into Adobe Audition or Audacity, you click on effects and there's usually a giant list. I just add the ones I want, and it's a one-time price for the effect. I don't have to do things like that. And Hindenburg is the ability, you can go over and buy it. It's not cheap. The Pro version is not cheap. It's like almost $400, but you can also rent it. It's like, I don't know, $9-10 a month, something like that. So it's that's why I use it. I still have. I thought about this because it's coming to the end of the year, and I am close to canceling my Adobe Audition subscription because I think I used it 3 times this year, and I use it because somebody will ask me a question, and I was like, I guess maybe it's a necessary evil of being Mr. School of Podcasting. I need it. So if somebody asks me a question on it, I can show it. But
I like Audacity better anyways.
Yeah, it's like that's a $240 thing I'm paying for. It's like
Audacity on the Mac is really good. Like, it's nearly identical Windows and Mac, but I really like Audacity on the Mac. It's just easy. For me, it's just easier. Stefan was asking you about the SM7B. Any switches?
Yeah, right now I have it set. Let me double check. Yes, right now I am boosting the mid. And since I have, you kind of need a little baby screwdriver set to do this, but I can do this live. I'll flip this around.
Uh-oh.
I know.
If a big flame shoots out of the back of that microphone.
There we go. Now I have no mid boost.
Because there's 3, right? There's 3 dials back there.
There's 2 dials there.
2 dials.
There's right now this is flat. I'm not cutting the bass and I'm not boosting the mids. So you can either cut bass or boost mids. And so while we're at it, if I okay, now I am cutting the bass.
Oh, so yeah.
So
don't do that. That's I liked it the way it was before.
And then if we go back to boosting the mids, just a little more clarity.
Yeah.
And I think for my voice, so
although I liked it how you had it set, the
flat.
Flat. I like that. I like that a little bit better for you, which is a little bit
this.
But the first time you hear something is that sets the bar, right? So that effect could be coming in. Jim Harold had asked, how do you think the preamps on the Tascam compare to the preamps on the Rodecaster? Did you run the 7B through the Rodecaster to?
I have not yet, but I noticed because I have the RE320 sitting here. I think they're fine. I was sitting there thinking, do I need a cloud lifter? Because it's kind of like having peanut butter without jelly. You're like, really? An SM7B without a cloud lifter?
Yeah.
But I don't hear a lot of noise when because I'm up to, let's see, as I look at this, I'm at 39. And I could actually go up a pinch more.
And that mid-level adjustment makes a big difference. Like when you had it when you had it up, you sounded more like the 320.
It's kind of weird because I was trying to get this to sound like my 320.
That did it. that did it. That mid-level or whatever you
Yeah.
did, the last adjustment that you did made you sound a little clearer, not clearer, but sharper, if that, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
I mean, not in a bad
The
way.
harshness.
A little harsher. There we go.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think this goes up to 50 and I'm at 41. And I'm now, as I look at that, it's weird. They're, well, here, can I do this? Yeah.
And what do you do? Uh-oh, we're going to have a seizure.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
there we go. Okay.
So there we can see
Here,
when you talk,
screen.
thank you. When you get up into the range, things turn light blue as opposed to, I don't know, yellow and red, the way everything else is. But this is what we're looking at. So here's the button. When I push
this, I sound like that. And then what the with these buttons? He just keeps hitting them over and over and enough with a beeping. Okay, so we get that. And then this was the coffee pour. So we don't know what's
anyway. So there's that, and then you've got mute buttons up here at the top. I'm out of cable, unfortunately. No, he's not. Oh wait. So you've got, and everybody makes a big deal about this talk button. Like if we were all in the same room, I could click on this and only it would stop it from going out over the air. That's on the Rodecaster. It's not a button, but you can do it with some sort of combination. And that was the sound of the RE320 tipping over in the background. So I've got Jim coming through here. So if I go here, I can come in here and say, here is my channel 1. So this is where I can come in
and say, hey, let's just make me sound like a monster. I am a monster. Oh. Okay, so
there's that. And then under voice settings, here's my noise, my ducking. And I can't right now show you bass, middle, and treble because for whatever reason, you don't get a choice with that when you're doing that. It's dynamic or condenser. This front and rear thing is kind of interesting. That is one thing that's different. Is the Rodecaster, you have headphones in the front. So here they are here. And with the Tascam, that can be a TRRS headset. So I could say, hey, I'm in channel 1, but I want to use the front, this thing, as opposed to the channels back there. And everybody's like, look how messy Dave's desk is. He's knocked over his speaker and hasn't even picked it up yet because I keep dragging things from one area to the next. So, and I love these quick little, it's a quick latch thing for my camera. It looks like this, he said. It's a little square box with little tabs on the sides. And when you push on them, this then comes off. So you attach this to the camera and then you attach this to your stand and then you just push the clips in and your camera goes in and you push them again and you can. So those times when you need to show the.
Yeah, those are handy to be able, like the quick disconnect on some of those to be able to pull those off. You could also do like an overhead cam, an extra webcam that's pointing down at the mixer. That may be like an interesting third cam anyways, just as you're doing that, like, hey, let's go over to the mixer cam.
And this is where I would have to add OBS or something. Like how do you show a second camera in StreamYard? You'd have to go and adjust your camera settings, I guess, right?
No, you would share. That's a good question. Yeah. There's a way to do it. There's an easy way to do it.
Yeah. But sitting in the green room, we'll bring him on and then we'll thank our awesome supporters. Because I mean, when you have Chris Nessie waiting, you don't make him wait.
Look at that angelic like sunlight coming in through his windows.
Chris Nessie. So, how are you, Mr. Nessie?
I'm doing well, Dave and Jim. Good morning. Happy Saturday.
Look at him.
Saturday to you.
Jim, do you feel left out? Being the only guy without an SMC?
No, those kinds of things don't. That doesn't impress me much. Shania Twain.
I was going to say, all right. Excellent.
Chris, you got a question for us?
I do have a question. So I'm on the precipice of getting to finally start the podcast network / podcasting club at the high school that I teach at. Mm-hmm. People have finally seen the light, not the one that's behind me, but I'm going to finally get to do some stuff. And Jim, I know you've done some internship opportunities with high school students with Gallup and some content creation. So while I consider myself to be an effective educator, an effective podcaster, I'm looking for maybe some strategies or methods to inspire today's youths to also be interested in podcasting and audio content creation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of the things, I never treated them like they were kids when we were doing these things. I just said, hey, we're doing whatever it was, whether it was podcasting or the tech stuff or some of those kinds of things. I just said, hey, we're going to do this, and do you want to come along for the ride? And no kid gloves, no extra help on the, not treat them, give them full reign to some of that. That has a propensity to fail because you give it to him. We two of the same projects I did, I approached them the same way. Two different individuals where I gave them freedom, said, hey, I need to kind of create this media thing, and I kind of want it to look like this. You have full reign on doing it. Go and do it. And one did really well, and one would just completely failed. So I think how you handle, Chris, the failures is more important than the success of it. Like, because if it's right, it's just one of those. Not that, I mean, you got to recognize it when it's successful. And by the way, recognition is the key to keeping this going with them. You just have to constantly be. And this, by the way, it should be the way it should be for adults too. And I'm not talking about, there's been kind of this backlash of snowflake and participation trophies. But when people genuinely do great things, tell them they did a great thing. Like, it doesn't, like, that's still people, you should still be doing that, right? So anyways, that being said, Chris, I think the give them some big challenges and let them see if they can rise to the occasion on it. Find those talkers and put them on.
That's kind of my style. So I know kids in grades 9 through 12 that, I hung my flyers around the building. So I've been kind of nudging kids in the hallway when I see them, like, hey, you should come to the meeting next week. Remember, we kind of did this a couple years ago before COVID changed the game in school. The other thing, I'm with you with what you're saying about, give them challenges, let them kind of take control of it, because what they're looking to do is a 5-day-a-week live stream.
How
for
long?
like a 15-minute show.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right. It's easy. I've been doing this for 8 years, creating content, live streaming, but now I'm going to try and get kids to basically do like Z Morning Zoo type stuff.
Yeah.
The announcements and,
fun.
Be in there 7:15 in the morning.
Yeah. I think there's some, besides the dogs being unhappy in the background,
I think want to eat the dog.
No worries, Chris. No worries. I think the key on that, in the early moments of it, is script as much of it as you can. And even though it feels to them, and maybe even you, it feels a little forced or contrived, those scripts will turn into natural. They'll naturally start doing it. We're a little better at that. We pick up on it faster. The students need to take a little bit of time, but I would try to script out the components of it, the opening, the closing for sure. And then if they have segments, if they're going to do regular segments, encourage them to script them. So, and read those dozens of times before they use them. Right. And just have them get good at it. And then don't let them, a lot of, especially on these daily shows, repetition is kind of, it's kind of the magic to it. So repetition without it being stale, if you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Dancing around that repetition. So I think I'd encourage them to have some production components of it that are the same, where they're doing the same things. Let them get good, especially if it's daily. Let them get good at the routine, and then let them start bouncing out around side on the edges of the routine. This is what we do on Ask the Podcast.
Yeah.
Right?
And I could see having them be a part of developing what that routine is.
Yeah.
Like I see this as a real opportunity to, a lot of the students that I work with, they talk about, oh, I would love to be a YouTuber, a content creator, but they're not doing anything. So it's a real opportunity for me to actually teach them, and, as Dave, you'll say, flatten the learning curve, All right, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay. Close the door.
It's so great.
The other thing I'll say before I
That
leave
is-
and lose my mind is you guys are talking about how to get the second camera in here.
Yeah.
So I put in the chat, I would consider an incognito instance of Chrome
Oh yeah.
to
Oh,
join
yeah.
again
Yes.
and then have the camera set as whatever that second video source is.
Yes.
That's all I got. I'll check in
All
with
right,
what I'm doing with
Chris.
the podcast, and I'm going to go be a dad.
Let us know. I'd be excited to hear about it, Chris.
I'll share it with you guys so you can listen in some mornings.
Thanks a ton. Appreciate it.
Take care, guys.
Take care. That's so
I'm gonna go be a dad. That's hilarious.
That is so great. Just shouting at him. That was
Well,
so great.
it's kind of excellent because if we know somebody who should be listening to, going over to the Dog Podcast Network, apparently has one or two. I was trying to figure out there, but which makes me want a dog now. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, we were talking about we at work, we were doing some presentations and they were talking about some employers who allow dogs now in the workplace as I don't want to say support animals, but it's kind of helpful, right? To have, and all of a sudden I'm like, I want to go pet a dog. Like I had that feeling. I was like, and how great would it be at work to be able to just, there's a dog walking and just go out and pet it, right? Kind of deal. Nah. So anyways.
That would be cool. Yeah, I could handle that. But if you have a dog and you want to hear some podcasts about dogs and how to be a better dog owner and how to keep them healthy and all sorts of fun stuff like that, check out James over at dogpodcastnetwork.com. And we always like to thank our $20 supporters, people like Glenn the Geek Hebert at horseradionetwork.com. I'm laughing because occasionally I do have to breathe. It's like, if you like horsies, then go over and check out Glenn at horseradionetwork.com. Shane at Spyberry. That is that's just like
that's practice.
Yeah.
That is practice. Yeah, that's practice.
You can go see him at spyberry.com, but really, if you are a person that operates a tour business or plan on starting one, well, then go check out tourpreneur.com because Shane is the king of the tour industry. He won't admit that, but he really is. Speaking of kings, go over see Felix at the Latin Podcast Awards. It's dedicated to enhancing the visibility of Latinx podcasts around the world since 2017. Find him again at latinpodcastawards.com. Max Trescott up in the air at aviationnewstalk.com. He is a 2008 National CFI of the Year. Again, aviationnewstalk.com. If you are looking for a podcast manager, then you can go over to podcastmanager.info if you need help with editing, if you need help with show notes or recruiting guests. That is something I see a lot in the Facebook groups. How do I approach a guest? And I was like, you go to them and say, would you like to be on my podcast? I don't know if we're overthinking it or what, but good. And I found out I knew it and I lost it. DR stands for something. And the R is redhead.
Yeah, no, it's her name.
It's her name, but we were asking last week what the deal was.
Okay.
And go see Kim and DR and over at podcastmanager.info. And then if you're looking for an LGBTQ plus founded company focused on helping all levels of podcasters to grow their podcast, regardless of what you're looking for, Caden is over there at kjstmedia.com. If you want to go say hi to Michael Delaney at Baby Mountain Radio Productions, that's where podcasting and hard work are made fun. Tell him I said hi. And if you need some help with your finances, go over and check out Greg at he is the Debt Shepherd, where he teaches financial wellness. Look him up at debtshepherd.com. The Indie Drop-In Network is where you can, if you have a true crime show or a scary kind of show or comedy, go over to indiedropin.com. They have an audience looking for your content, and you can give them one of your episodes, and they'll put it on their network to help drive listeners. And if you'd like to be an awesome supporter, we always appreciate those. Go over to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. And there's a list of all of our awesome supporters over there. And if you're like, I don't want to really do the monthly thing, go over to askthepodcastcoach.com/store, and you can support us with a one-time donation. You can buy my book. There's all sorts of fun stuff over there. Jim's Patreon is over there as well. So go over to askthepodcastcoach.com/store. So, but it's having a cold is not fun when you're a podcaster, for the record.
You sound a lot better now than you did when I first, an hour and some change ago when we
Well,
first
I'm
connected.
talking more, so my voice is getting, I guess, warmed up.
Yeah. No, you sound okay. In fact, I may not even right now, I may not even notice you have a cold, just to be honest. I mean, your voice is kind of warmed up enough. You muted though. Something muted you. Did you mute? Did you? Is there a 30-minute time limit that all of a sudden kicked in that now you're muted on StreamYard? Let's try to unmute you there. No. Huh, I can't. No, I can't. I can't hear you. No, which is okay. I mean, well, hopefully we say something now. No, still nothing. Chat room, are you guys hearing Dave? Is it just me? I hope it's not just me. See if we can get to, well, you're muted on StreamYard again, so try to take that off. No, did something on the board? Well, maybe this is a live. No, nothing. No, Gary can't hear you, so it looks like it's not just me. We'll have an edit in the middle here I'll go a little extra long. You want to jump out and jump back in? Okay. All right. See you in a minute. Give that a try for Dave. See if we can get him out and back in, and give him just a second here to do that, so he doesn't have to do a huge edit. Well, I wonder if we put up any banners for on the Gallup side of things. I have a banner, like, because we record two in a live session. In a 50-minute live session, I'll record 2 15-minute episodes. We do it live, then they edit them and we throw them out there on the podcast network. But I have little banners that I use on StreamYard that say, this is the pre-show. It's from my editor, actually. This is the pre-show. This is the mid-show. This is the post-show. That way he doesn't necessarily need to listen to every single second of it. And it also gives the audience an idea of where we're at, in the process. So I just found that is one of those, the audience actually kind of expects it. So it's not like it's a disruption or whatever. We're going to cut it out anyway. So just a handy little, kind of handy little tool you can use in StreamYard to get that done. Yeah, I get you could use an overlay for it. I think I use the banners part of it. Dave's got some banners. I'm in Dave's channel now, and I think we've got some banners, just like this, right? That we put that in there and say, it says we're in the pre-show, we're in the post-show. Just a good way. Here, I'll pimp myself while I'm out there. Maybe I could be doing this for Dave while he's talking. Sometimes that's we'll do. If you want to jump in, join us on the call. askthepodcastcoach.com/join while Dave is getting reconnected and we're getting his audio back. Maybe we could have you jump in and get this done. I think here he's coming back. I want to throw up the supporters as well. Here, we'll take this off as he's coming back in. I'll add you back in, Dave. No, can't hear you at all. No, that's weird. It just stopped. Yeah, not the audio just quit working. For me there. I can kind of read your lips. It sounds like you have a cold. Yeah, you're gonna switch? You're gonna switch it over? Okay. All right, we'll let you do that as well. Here, I'll go back to full screen while we're having Dave kind of do the switch over. Questions, chat room? As Dave works on his setup a little bit there. Yeah, you're right. We kind of do need that technical. Let me go back to the comments here. Stefan says, nope, that's not the right one. Chris says we need a screen that says we're expecting technical difficulties. Be back soon. That would be a good one to kind of have out there. Chris, by the way, drinking some Island coffee this morning. It's super delicious. Thank you for getting me hooked on it. Yeah, maybe take the Tascam out and just go straight through via USB. That could be, that's an easy way to get it done. You kind of lose all your effects when you get it done that way. But yeah, Chris, he said experiencing, but I read that in there too. So we'll have Dave back here in just a second. Let me add him. Hold on, Dave. Let's get you added back in. Say something.
I gotta change.
Yeah. No, I can hear you now.
You can hear me now. Okay, cool.
I can. Yeah.
I have no idea. Zero.
Yeah, weird.
What's going on?
Maybe there's a 30-minute limit on the Tascam.
I don't know. I didn't do anything in the software.
You want to throw that in? Well, the RE320's on. You probably don't have a stand set up to take one of those mics right now, do you? It's to do you?
No, I don't.
No.
I have a desktop stand, but no.
Those fancy mics are all in the setup. No, not a big deal. You can hold it.
Yeah.
I think Todd did it one time. He did New Media Show where he was holding it.
Yep, I have a mic clip somewhere, but
how much of that will you edit out? Will you edit all of that out?
Yeah, depending on what you said while I was gone.
I was just making conversation. Okay. So
yeah, I'll probably
you're welcome to edit as much as you want.
The fun thing is, this is weird. So I'm like, how am I going to be heard? I'm still being heard through the SM7B in the recording.
Oh.
So the audio is still there.
Yeah.
But
yeah, this may be one of those weeks you just want to edit the video and then strip the audio right out of it.
Yeah.
That just may be easier.
Yeah, because what I do is I go into StreamYard, I go audio, and I say, well, now that I have an option, I can go in here now and say, go back to, communicate. I have, okay.
Daniel wants to know if the Tascam's connected to a hub, connected to a Mac, because you don't run Mac. You're a Windows guy.
I don't believe so. I think it's direct, because I remember I took the cable out of the Rodecaster and put it. I was like, oh, cool. There's a cable already here.
Oh, now we just lost you again.
I thought maybe.
Oh, okay.
I thought maybe switching to a different microphone, and now that I have more than one options, but yeah, it's going directly into the system. It still shows it's connected. I've got a little USB button. It's weird. It just and I can hear you fine. I mean, it's you're blinking, I'm blinking, everybody's
It sounds good on that. That's a Q2U.
You're not. I've lost you on the.
Oh,
somehow we lost the.
Yeah, you're just gonna have to use the video, the StreamYard video for the audio today. That's a Q2U that you're on right now?
This is the Samsung Q2U. So we've gone from SM7B to RE320.
And it's even softer. Like this is not soft sound wise, not volume wise, but feel or tone of your voice is a little bit softer on the Q2U. I like it. I've liked this progression. I wouldn't mind hearing you on that on a more
on the Q2U.
Yeah. That sounds more casual. If that makes sense, right? It'd be great for a Skype call. I mean, Skype. Who uses Skype anymore, except me? For a Teams call, or by the way, this week I used Skype to do that. I remember last week did I talk about this last week? Using Skype, I'm routing my non-English podcasts through Skype on two different computers. So I have. Did I talk about this last week?
And then you got it to trans.
And then I listened and I got it to translate for me. There's a little translator, an active translator built into Skype, and I got enough of the conversation. Like you got to kind of read the transcripts. I tried using the voice feature in it, and it's just too fast and too much all at once. But if you read the transcript, kind of like the Matrix, so you don't read it word for word, you kind of read it in chunks. I started understanding what they were saying, and I started being able to follow. This was in Chinese, in Mandarin.
Wow.
And I started following the conversation, and I was able to, at the end of the conversation, formulate 3 solid questions that I could come back to in English and say. I would say the questions in English, and they would translate them, and then we'd talk about them, and then they would translate it back to English for me. Well, hey, that's kind of a win, right?
That is a win,
right? To be able to listen to a a language I don't understand, can't write or even read, or talk or speak, to be able to get enough context to understand and create and form questions that are relevant for what they were talking about, hey, that's a win. That can only get better. So takes 2 PCs. I have a second PC that I'm running the video on that's going live. It's playing into Skype, coming across to a Skype account on this PC that I'm then reading the transcript. Skype's got this built-in translator in it. That's okay. I wouldn't call it life-changing or life-altering, but good enough right now that you can understand that language. So I'm currently running my wife through that so I can understand her better here in the future. And when I talk to her, I'm like, can you just call me on Skype? There's a spouse translator thing in there, so it's helping me out in my marriage. But pretty cool.
She's saying this, but what it really means is please take out the trash. Yes.
Exactly.
Without me asking you.
Yes, go buy that gift. It's those kinds of things that you need help with on the relationships. How great would that be if that actually existed? But
the divorce rate would just go down.
Would just plummet. The so test it in Chinese this week. I'll test it in Portuguese and Spanish to see how that works. So, and French.
Because when you get into like Chinese and Mandarin,
yeah,
I mean, not that any language they also, but like there are vowels in Chinese that do not exist in English. I mean, it's way different.
Yeah, a little tonal too, and so. Yeah, it's not word for word. And it took me, have you ever seen on Facebook when they put that message that's written in different letters, but if you start reading it out loud, so like an 8, they used, for great, they use the number 8, and it's this whole sentence. And after you read it for a while, your brain starts deciphering it. Your brain kind of figures out, oh, okay, it's this way. And so it starts deciphering it. And then you can read it like it's a normal sentence, right? It's a lot like that when at least for me, when I started reading these translations a paragraph at a time instead of word by word, the more I did it, the longer I was doing it, the better my brain got at kind of reading the ideas, the concepts. Because it misses a lot of words. It misrepresents a lot of words. You need to take in every sentence, you need to take 3 or 4 of those to get the concept, right? But the more I did it, now I was exhausted when I was done, but the more I did it, the better I got at reading these concepts. I do think this is a little bit of the future of podcasting when we think about us creating content in English and it not translating it. Yeah. And then having great ways for people to listen and interact in a translated form, So I think that's the future. I mean, nobody's doing that today.
I forget there's a commercial. It might have been iPhone or, Android, but they showed where somebody was in a, different country and he hit a button and the 2 people could talk into the phone and it would translate. I was like, it's coming if it's not there yet.
Kim didn't appreciate my comments, by the way.
Oh, all right.
Sorry, Kim. Sorry. She needs a translator from me.
Let's just
put it that way.
Does anybody have a list of tools like Zoom, Teams, which can store multi-track, high-quality audio? Squadcast, Riverside. Those are the 2 that I know of. CleanFeed, maybe. I know CleanFeed has separate tracks. Whatever one you use, have a backup. That's the bottom line to all those. For me, Squadcast has given me the less headaches. It did give me one, but they were able to give me the content. It just wasn't it was like an MP3 version. So I just say, whatever you're using, have a Zoom PodTrack P4 in the background or a Tascam not connected to the internet or whatever's going on here. So that as we can see, technology doesn't always work. And what has happened here, it's really confusing, is I have a little symbol on my LED here, LCD, whatever, the thingy, the control panel that says it's plugged into USB. And when I go to your channel, it's like, nope, it's lost the connection to the USB. So when we go to, I was going to say post show, but we can't play music now. We'll have to hum or something for
yeah, just add it. We'll just pretend
we'll add it in
it's
post,
playing,
yeah.
and then you can add it in post.
Yeah, but I'm like, it's what I want to do is unplug the USB and just plug it back in, and I'm gonna guess that's gonna go like that.
Yeah,
that seems to be the thing that's going wonky.
So that like the USB driver failed or
something.
something.
But that's one of those things where I'm like, okay, I'm glad we're doing this again next week because, well, number one, it hasn't done that all week. Well, all week. It didn't do it at all yesterday. I only used it really yesterday. So this is the first time I've had it just like disconnect. So there's a Facebook group, which is interesting because it's kind of an official, like there are people in there from Tascam, but not all the comments are praise. Other people like, hey, it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that, and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, and then I'm not sure what the question is here, Stefan. He says, at Jim, to the guy.
Oh, no, I asked him. He said there's a YouTube video. I wasn't going to bring this in, but he said there's a YouTube video about live translations from Google, which I haven't really figured out a great way. Google's got some tools, but doing it live, like over long periods of time, are not possible using their web tools. So he says there's one good Japanese to English, which is a really hard translation, which is really good. So Stefan, I know we're connected on Twitter. If you would DM me that YouTube link, that would be helpful. I'll take a look at it. It's one of those areas that I'm really interested in because we now have 6 non-English podcasts at Gallup, and I've got to figure. Some of them want me on them. I'm like, guys, I can't speak Portuguese. Like I can't do it. I'm
going to guess that Mandarin's the most popular aside of English.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So many people.
Yeah. No, right on. Yeah, and we got to get that. With the 1.4 billion. Speaking that would be, back to your Tascam. I wonder if the Tascam driver or the Tascam itself had a hardware failure of some kind, where it just, because to me, when we lost you, but it also sounds like you lost me, which doesn't make me think it's a USB on the machine, but more at the Tascam level.
Yeah, the thing that really doesn't make sense here, I could still hear you. Like now, when I look at it now, you're not making anything blink.
Right.
You know why, Dave? That's so dumb. Do you know why you're not making anything blink?
I don't.
Because StreamYard is now going through my microphone. That's
why.
Yeah. I was like, that's one of those where you're like, oh yeah, that's why. It's because I'm like, wow, it's not even connected. It's like because StreamYard is no longer talking to the Tascam because the Tascam,
failed. Or whatever. Something stopped working.
So I will
wonder if you turned it off and turned it back on, if that would.
What? When in doubt, right?
We're at the end of the show. So
it says, do you want to power off? Because I'm not recording now anyway. So
yeah, you're not going to use this recording. What would it hurt to?
Well, what I'll do for those of you that are still here, you'll hear where the sound goes off, and I'll probably come in and post and say, hey, we had a bit of a technical problem here. We're going to pick things up when I came back on. And, so in theory, I've now rebooted it. And if I go into my settings and say, hey, go back and listen to the Mixcast. Does it sound like me?
Yeah. I think
lights blink.
Yeah.
So,
and I think we're hearing you. I think we're hearing you through the SM7B now.
You can hear me now, right?
Put the SM or put the Q2U down for a second.
Make sure your mic's up.
Can you hear me?
Because I don't hear you now, Jim.
Oh, yep. Yeah. So you probably need to. Well, if you can't hear me, no matter what I say.
That's so weird. You're making light. I don't hear. Oh, yeah. You know why, Dave? Your headphones are plugged into the. Jeez. All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. It helps when you have the headphones plugged into the right thing.
So no, right on. And
listen, sound different on this microphone.
Well, you sound good on that microphone.
Yeah,
you really do. You really sound good. You got a lot of moving parts going on, right? And you're trying to think through a lot of those pieces. So do you think it was a Tascam that failed?
Yeah. I think for some reason, I don't know why, because I don't know. We'll have to play with it a little more, but
Yeah.
I'll definitely be putting this thing through its paces this week.
A whole bunch of orders for that thing just got canceled.
Yeah.
People are like, cancel.
Yeah.
I don't want it now if it's going to fail 45 minutes in.
Yeah.
If it's going to.
We have a Libsyn question. We'll answer that in the post show, but I'm so happy.
We can have music too.
Yes, I was like, oh, we're back. We can do the normal exit. But Jim, what's coming up on theaverageguy.tv?
Yeah, so Jay Madison joins us. He's kind of a regular contributor to the show, and we spend a little time talking about USB kind of mini keyboards, right? Just ultra light, ultra thin, ultra cool RGB lighting in the background. I mean, man, keyboards have come a long way in the last couple years as we think about the way they are. Some are mechanical. So we spend a bunch of time talking about that. If you're kind of a keyboard nerd, or even if you're not, come out and listen to it. I'll post it a little bit later today, homegadgetgeeks.com.
And the other thing I've just noticed, there's no countdown timer on this thing.
Oh.
That's going to make things...
So no countdown timer for the music.
For the music.
Yeah.
That's one of those little things that's a big deal.
Is this a review unit or did you buy it?
No, I bought it.
You bought
I bought this, and I'll maybe I'll get into that in the future.
Okay.
In the post show.
Yeah.
But I thought it was going to be simpler, and part of it was tied into the software that looked a lot like Hindenburg. That I don't want to say that it's a piece of but it's
well, you bought it so you can say that.
Yeah,
that's
true.
The great thing about it. Like, you're not beholden to Tascam.
Yeah. So I was like,
what's coming up on School of Podcasting?
School of Podcasting. I am calling an audible. I have a guy that has a really cool Because of My Podcast story, and I'm going to put that on pause because we're going to talk about probably about 27 lessons that you can learn from the Beatles. I watched the Get Back series on Hulu, and man, everything was like, oh, so that'll be coming up on the School of Podcasting, but stick around for some post show. It's the musician in me. I was like, oh, I recognize that. That's the end of the song.
It amps up they add a new instrument each time. That's how I know we're getting close, because they're just really jamming on that by the time we get ready to wrap it.
Yeah, there were two reasons. Number one, the stupid I'm going to blame Sweetwater, of course, right? Sweetwater has a 3-month same as cash deal. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes that a little more affordable.
But you bought the Tascam and the SM7B on?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I've now acknowledged I have a problem. That's enough of that. So that was part of it. But I really thought when I saw the software that comes with this, I was like, because there were some things, fade ins and fade outs that look very Hindenburg-y. Yeah. And I was like, this might end up being like the solution for people wanting to start a podcast. And if it would be easy to record multiple tracks and stuff. And so that's why I bought it. And then, I've had, have I talked about upgrading the firmware? That was,
you mentioned that you had to do it when it first came in.
Where the Rodecaster, you download a file, you unzip it, you hit a button on the Rodecaster, you double click the exe file, and you're done. I mean, it's super. Tascam, download a file, unzip the folder. And what I found out was copy one of the files from the folder onto the SD card, put the SD card back in, and you turn it on and press the mark button, and it will go into the update, which is then 5%, 6%. It's not quick.
It's slow. It
So the first 2 times I tried it, it's like, this file is corrupt. And I was like, well, how can it be corrupt? I just downloaded it. It's because I was putting the unzipped folder on the SD card. You put the one file that's in, there's like 4 files in the folder. You have to find the one. And once you finally go back and read the manual, you're like, oh, they actually said that, but it's not super specific. That's like, you will see a file named blah, 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 but they don't say just move that file, not the folder. So I had to do that 3 times. So everything is just, at this point, Rodecaster's been out, 2 years now?
Yeah.
Something like that. Now, here's what I'm not seeing.
Was that pre-COVID?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, just before, I think.
Okay.
And so for me, The one thing I'm not seeing is I'm not stepping over stuff I'll never use. Right? I'm not going to use the reverb, but when I saw Rode say, now for the record, I'm a big fan of the Rodecaster. I'm not, but when they said, oh, now you can via MIDI use the touchpads to trigger lights and everything else, I was like, I don't think you're talking to podcasters anymore. That sounds like almost like a DJ thing. And I was like, I don't know. I would love to know who requested that feature, but we started off with a red record button on the Rodecaster, and we ended up at hit a, jingle key to trigger something else. And I went somewhere, we went a little too far. And again, I love the Rodecaster. They're just, and like anything else, there's a learning curve. Like I know to go, home button settings, sound processing, USB mix. Right. I get that. But to me, I think this is fine. In the same way that the Zoom has whatever it is, I know I used something 8 of theirs. Am I locked up? No, I'm not.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
But like they had the ability to edit the file on the device, and I went, that's interesting. Never going to use it. Nobody's editing. I'm not going to be cutting out ums on the device. So I did like the fact that I didn't see anything on here that Daniel's saying probably live streamers want that. Yeah, I guess maybe changing their, what that would be. Because I don't know that I have it turned on yet. I've been approved to monetize my YouTube channel, which I was like, so eventually you might have super chats or something like that. So I could see if somebody wanted we're not doing that. Jim is grimacing. Yeah. Jim was like,
oh, hell no.
Yeah, I could see where somebody hit a super chat, where if you could hit a button and all of a sudden the lights go or something.
Yeah. Yep.
I could see that. Yep. But to me, I was like, that's not a podcasting.
A lot more production than we would do here on Saturday morning, which would be kind of fun. But
but until it just crapped out on me, I was like, okay, this is a unit, and
it's one time. It's one time. I think it deserves to be, if this happens all the time, you get. A couple things worry me. The speed at which the SD card, one, the fact that you're using an SD card sometimes to move things, like kind of go, and then the speed at which it seems to read off the SD card makes me think they have a pretty low quality reader in there. Like, they picked up whatever was cheapest to get that installed. Those two things, and you're like, ooh, and then it sounds like it's a solid V1 implementation of this. Rodecaster had some issues out the gate that they've since fixed with firmware updates. You can't fix hardware with software updates, but you can't upgrade your hardware that way. But maybe they'll get some feedback, Dave, and they'll make some adjustments to it based on kind of what they hear from the community. The hard part about all of this, and this goes to those comments from both Daniel and Stefan, was that, the community is varied, and some folks they want to DJ with this thing, to your point. Right. Some want to game with it. We just want it to work for this kind of simple environment. And so you have engineers who are trying to do everything to be everything for everyone. And that almost always creates a really bad product. Like when, you get Windows. When you operate that way, you get Windows. And so it's just, we'll have to see. I'm sure the community will give them a lot of feedback.
Yeah. The Stefan says, can I not download the files from the Rodecaster via USB? You can. It takes a while. And that's the one thing where they have this nice little utility in Rode. You open up the software, you click on it, and you export it. What I always did was
you're bringing it to the card, right? The hard drive on that is an SD card, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's why I started doing this, where I got one of those adapters.
Yeah.
Where I would put the little baby SD card into the bigger SD card. That seemed to speed things up a little bit, and you could export it as a WAV file and things like that. And with the Tascam, they have some interesting options when it comes to exporting. You come in here and I can export it as a WAV file, an MP3, or an MP4, which I think is interesting. You can really special, like the loudness level. If you want 14.5 LUFS, don't know if I can do halves. No, I can. 14.6 LUFS. That's kind of interesting. I think it's interesting that I can upload a shortcut, but nowhere in the documentation did I see what that means. So that's like, oh, that's a neat feature. I guess I'll learn about it later. So there's that. If I want to export, let's see. Yeah, if I want to export something, a poly wave file. So it's kind of the opposite. It's where normally you go, well, you do. I can come in here and say, read what's on the machine and bring it in here in separate tracks. Or, and this is what I saw myself doing, basically pulling the wave files into this software and then exporting just the ones I want out as a wave file so I could then put them into Hindenburg. So I was like, that's a little, again, it's not quite as simple as the Rodecaster, where the Rodecaster is like, there's the thing, export it, and that's it. So, and you can, on the Rodecaster in their Rode software, you can have it automatically adjust the LUFS. So I thought it was interesting that I have to open up this basic DAW to export a poly wave file, or there's a I think it's Captain, I forget the name of there's a thing from Sound Devices, which I had to dig out to get the SD card out. I was like, wait, I know I have an SD card.
Show that again, Dave.
This is the Sound Devices Mix Pre 6.
Oh yeah,
that I had probably 3 years ago. That was double the price of this, basically close to it.
Yeah.
And I got the Mix Pre 6. I need to sell this like now, because this thing is depreciating in a horrible rate right now.
It's from a different day.
It really
like
is.
It still is, but it was the high end from a different day.
Well, the other thing is, when I open this thing up, because we're sitting here watching this, Rodecaster take up half my desk, and this thing's the size of a Pop-Tart, and it's got
it's beautiful. It's a beautiful piece of equipment.
Yeah, and I could literally put 4 of these on my desk,
Yeah.
And the preamps in this thing are amazing.
I know.
And I personally am not I know Jim asked about the preamps, and unless it's like horrible, I never really hear a huge difference between, one preamp and another. When I go from a Behringer to something else, and really even Behringer isn't that bad anymore, but unless it's really bad and you have to crank it up and then you get a bunch of noise. But
hey, let's go to the Finance Rebels question before we forget to get to that. So does Libsyn allow for different user types? Working on outsourcing my production and show notes, and was hoping I could have different logins.
You can have, if speaking of clunky, said the guy in the Libsyn shirt, you can have multiple users. You can I don't think we even have an official name for it. I think it's like the official certified Libsyn editor. So you can be an editor. So if you're like an editor or a podcast production person, you can email support@libsyn.com and say, I'd like to be in the Libsyn editor program, even if you're not an editor. Maybe you're just a podcast manager. And we'll basically have you fill out some paperwork. You send it back to us, and then we then dub you are now an official Libsyn podcast editor, and your clients can say, hey, put Jim on my account. So we will put Jim on your account. We'll email you and say, if forever in the future you want Jim off your account, just email us and we will pull him off. Jim has the exact same rights that you do. So he can see everything. He's basically the exact same thing as you. If you want multiple levels, we have that as well. That's called Libsyn Pro. And you could email Rob Walsh at rob@libsyn.com. And the Libsyn Pro allows for multiple users with multiple levels. It also allows dynamic ad insertion. There's all sorts of fun stuff, network stats, all sorts of that's really our enterprise solution. And so that it's there. So there's kind of 2 levels. There's the, hey, ask support, and we'll give you the same access that everybody else does in your account. And then if you need different levels, email Rob for Libsyn Pro. So we are not going to have a show on Christmas Day.
Oh, we did it
At the same time. Yeah. What is, because
Christmas is on a Saturday.
Yeah.
We listen. I'm game for whatever the next Saturday is, because that's not like, I definitely Saturday morning.
That is New Year's Day.
Yeah. So New Year's Day, I am perfectly fine on New Year's Day of doing a show. In fact, I think it'd be, if you're game, I think it'd be fun to podcast on brand new first day of the year. I mean, technically Asia gets it before we do, but it would be fun to, I'd be game for that. So why don't we just take Christmas off?
Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
No, yeah. Taking Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah. Cause I mean,
just take a week off.
I mean, I personally, I could do it because I'm going to have Christmas probably a week before that because my brother goes to Florida. So
I'd get,
I'm like, dude, you got grandkids and
that'd be the last day.
Like, I want to open presents. Grandpa's got a podcast. Sit tight. I'll be right back in an hour and a half. That's not going to go over well.
My kids would be like, you are doing what?
You
like, you idiot.
You need a serious.
Yeah, they would not appreciate me for doing it on Christmas. And I don't, to be honest with you, I'm not sure we get that many listeners. So
no, that's the other thing.
Chat room, tell us. I don't know. We don't want any no answers. Would you come? We're not going to do this. We're not doing it on Christmas.
Just curious.
But would you be here?
Yeah, market research. Because if you have little kids, by 10:30, they're already done. You know what I mean? They got you up at 4 a.m.
Yeah, we stretch it, and lately we haven't been getting started till 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. We're waiting for kids to come over, and so it's just a late morning. Yeah,
I remember once we got my dad up at like 5, and we're like, "Daddy, Santa's been here," and he's like, "No, he hasn't. Go back to bed." It's like, no, really, we've seen it. There's stuff in there. He's like, go back to bed. No,
my young kids would get up they were so excited, and they would get up so early, and we would just be like, I think we had a rule or something that they had to, like 6 o'clock. They had to wait till at least 6 o'clock, and then, like you said, we were done by 8. And then they would be like, "What?" We go back to bed.
Yeah, it's crazy. Hey, I did something. We can show this. Let me share my screen.
So we are closed. We are officially closed on Christmas.
Yes.
Christmas Day, the 25th. And then we'll be back that next weekend.
Yeah, we'll be back on New Year's Day.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
So
kick in the new year.
What this is, if you haven't seen it in Spotify, they have this wrapped feature where they give you stats, most of them fairly useless, like 13 of your audience listen to your podcast on their birthday. Okay, thanks. But at first I looked at it and they had this graph, and it turned out it was followers. So this is not downloads. And so I looked at it and I could see in February 2018 is when I submitted my show to Spotify, and I had a whopping 1 follower, which was probably me. And then I went to 4, and then 4 became 7, and 7 came to 11. And I was looking at this and I was like, interesting. And you can see where I then
compared. Can you make that spreadsheet a little bit bigger?
Yes, I can. Let's do this.
No, there we go. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. So what I then did is I then started comparing, like in February 2019, I had 27 followers, where before I had 1. Well, that's a growth of some insane percentage. And I just started doing this. But as I scrolled down, and you'll see where you're having like 2, 0, 4, 7% growth month to month. And at times it'll bounce up to like 12 or whatever. And so if I scroll to the right, this is the chart of like month to month. So it goes all over the place. And this is where sometimes if we're looking at stats, we can really go nuts and crazy. And I was like, wait a minute, instead of looking month to month, let's look at, or looking, month to month. This is more over the years kind of thing. And it's not a great graph. It's going up. I mean, I started in 2018. I had, this is 2020. So 2020 to the end of 2021, I basically doubled my followers, which is cool. All right. We went from 39 to 82. So ish. But it was just one of those where I'm like, wow, when you really dig in deep, the number, the graph looks crazy. It's going up and down and up and down. I was like, but if we back up a bit, you can see where I am having growth as followers on Spotify. And that's for this show, by the way. This show does not do well on Spotify. We have.
Oh, I wouldn't think we would.
No.
I wouldn't think we would do well over there.
Well, just as I looked at that, I was like, all right, there's kind of a lesson here that, like, sometimes if we dig in too quick and you're like, wait, we had 7% growth one month and the next month it was down 2%. It's like, yeah, but it's 7% of 13. It's easy to double your numbers when it's like that. So you have to be kind of careful with that. So
yeah, I think we have a pretty core audience that already has their player. Like,
yeah,
they didn't go to Spotify. They're not new listeners. I think I was listening to Todd and Rob, and they were mentioning on New Media Show, they were mentioning some of the new numbers and how the demographic, the younger demographic, is really growing as listening to podcasting. And they're the ones, I think, driving a lot of this Spotify growth. They were already there. Then they were like, hey, where can it's on Spotify. Boom. I'll just start listening to it there. iHeartRadio may also be another area to start picking up some of those, because they already have that demographic in a lot of ways. They've got access to it. So we may see some growth in those areas. I'm constantly getting at Gallup, I'm constantly getting ideas from our comms team that demographically is a lot younger than me. And it's good. It's pushing me. We started doing some 30-minute LinkedIn lives. We've started cutting our content down a little bit shorter, and kind of spraying it all over the place. And it's having some success with that. And yet I tell them, I'm not going to cut my hour show, because there's still people who want to listen to that long form content. I think, Dave, the question is, you got to do it all. If you want to reach everybody, you got to do all those different, you got to be on TikTok, you got to be on Instagram, you got to be doing these things. And not every form is good for what you do. So you have to make some decisions, right? Like, I'm not going to go on TikTok. It's just not going to happen. That's not my style.
And I've heard too many things about who owns that content and things. I get a little tinfoil hatty around, TikTok. The Finance Rebel says, so I have a podcast and I want to outsource everything. schoolofpodcasting.com/edit will take you over to my team. They can do as little or as much of that. I always say, here's the thing with podcasting, you're either going to pay in time or money, and use the one you have the most of. So if you're short on time, but you got some money in the bank, pay somebody to do it. If you are kind of tight on a budget, well, then maybe you have to do that yourself for a little bit. But there are people that will do it. There's some, I have a guy that I wish I have the audio somewhere. They're looking at between $2,000 and $6,000 to book you on other shows. Like, we will get you on other podcasts. And I asked the person, I said, so what's your strategy? How are you going to get me on a show that's going to fit me exactly? And boy, what was funny is I'm pretty sure the person that called me was just seeing if the phone number was good. And when I picked up, he was like, oh, thanks for answering. And I'm like, what can I help you with? Oh, well, my company does this. And I'm not making this up. Somewhere in there, he said, in stuff. Like, we help you get on other shows and stuff. And I was like, in stuff. Okay. And so okay, there are 14 million companies doing what you do. What makes you different? And boy, let me talk. You need to talk to my CEO. And I was like, ugh. But he did quote somewhere between $2,000 and $6,000. Number one, that's a huge difference. Like, you're going to triple your thing. Yeah. So when I see that, I'm like, more people coming into the space because they think there's money here. And I'm like, there's money, just not from an independent podcaster. It's from a business that's using podcasting as a marketing piece or things like that. So that's kind of fun.
I hear the kids do this. They do this a lot. Their tick is, yeah. And then they start the sentence like it's, yeah. And then, and I was watching a presentation yesterday, and one of the presenters did that 4 times. And every time they went to him, it goes, yeah. And, or, oh yeah. And then, they start. So it's,
Jim, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
That's that guy on the phone. I'd be like, how are you going to be different? He's like, oh man, that's a really good question. I was like, you're trying to figure out how to answer this because you don't know how. So that's what yeah is.
Yeah. Yep. It's a really good question. Well, yeah. And I think I've heard a lot of students presenting, and it seems to be a common thing. Just it's gotten kind of picked up in the.
So what the youngins are saying is that what you're saying?
That's what those young kids are doing these days.
And
it was David,
and yeah, okay.
type deal. So as I was listening to them, so yesterday we had a bunch of sophomores, college sophomores, come in and do some presentations for us on some work they had done. And the whole time they were talking, I was thinking about, how do I turn all this into a podcast? Like, what could I be doing with these students that would help them help themselves, and still create some marketing around some of our tools. And I don't have an answer yet, but I met with their lead guy and said, told him that, like, there's some podcast stuff in here. And he's like, I agree. And so we're putting together a little focus group in early February. I'm going to go down to the school, meet with them, and just talk to the students and say, what could we do that would help both take this experience and capture it? And then what would you listen to along those lines? And then how would we do it? Because there was so much great. I walked away from that thinking, man, there's a lot of great stuff in this. I wish we could get this recorded, so others could learn from it. So we'll see what happens. I got a couple months to kind of think about it.
Stefan has a question. There was a Buzzsprout video about statistics, and they said that the average podcast with them had 50 downloads an episode. That's probably about right. I know with Libsyn, I think the median is around 50-ish. I have to go back and listen. I take that back. The median was around 125. The average is always around 1,700 to 2,000. It's not and that doesn't mean Libsyn is better, said the guy in the Libsyn shirt. I did an episode on that it's not the hosting. That doesn't mean that hosting doesn't count. I last week when I got sick, the reason I'm pretty sure I'm sick is I rode in my cousin's van, which was an incubator of germs on their way to that. And, but he had like heated seats and all sorts of features that I was like, man, if I was doing a long drive, I would definitely pick this over my little Toyota Corolla. And so the idea is the best interface that has the features that you need, that you're going to use, and go that route. But speaking of that, since it is December 4th, if you sign up at Libsyn today using the coupon code SOP free, all one word, you will get the rest of December and all of January free. If somebody says you get 2 months free, tell them to go talk to Dave, because you're saying that wrong. Because what you do is you get a full month. Now, if you happen to start, don't sign up on the first, because then you'll get a full month. But if you sign up on the second, you'll get the rest of that month and a full month the next month. So people have been saying, oh, you get 2 months free. And it's like, and then somebody will sign up on the first. They're like, where's my second month? And you're like, you don't get 2 months, you get one full month. And it's like, somebody's pimping that wrong. So, man, I think the financial guide said something about being a Libsyn affiliate. You can be a Libsyn affiliate as well. That's again, just email support@libsyn.com and we can get you to the right people. Different people are running that program now, and I don't think they're going to be quite as stringent. Yeah, the reason I missed the port is I honestly couldn't remember what button it was.
Is it working?
It should be now. Yeah. So you want to try it again?
Yeah. There we go.
There we go. There we go. Much better. Excellent.
And for everybody who missed it,
yeah.
You just died. I think we figured out your problem. No, you're dead. Like your sound. I think we may have DR. It is satisfying. I think we may have figured out What's going on? All right, so Dave, hold on, Dave. Let me go. Let me make you big screen here. So you're pushing the buttons now. We're not hearing any of that. Yeah, you're okay. I don't know what you're pushing there, but that's not working. You are muted on you are muted here on StreamYard. Let's can you unmute yourself for a second? So reboot it. Reboot the Tascam. Yeah. No, don't drop out of StreamYard. Just reboot the Tascam and let's see. And you could even take your camera and show us what a reboot looks like if you want to do that. Don't forget you're muted on StreamYard. So as you come back, you'll need to unmute yourself. You probably can't hear me to be able to do that. Okay. So there's no on off button on the Tascam, it appears. Yeah, DR, don't worry about it. We this is a good, like we needed we needed this test anyways, because why it does it on the why it does it on that particular, because I think maybe that's the last sound it died on or something. I don't know. Unmute yourself on StreamYard.
Yeah, it is sitting here going like this really, and like it stopped recording. I see where the numbers aren't changing, but it won't even power down.
Is there a power button on it?
There's a power button on the back, and when I pushed it once, and I was like, huh? And then I pushed and held it because I've had to do that.
Hope you kept the box.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this is going back.
Yeah,
that's like not ready for prime time.
Yeah,
which is good. That's
that's
$600 back in my bank account that I'm like,
well, you haven't paid fully for it because you were paying for it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
so you're gonna get $100 back or whatever.
Yeah,
$200.
But yeah, that's deal breaker.
Yeah, that's a little painful. Like, and it's not like you were stepping on it or you were like it appears as because when you push the button to do the sound effect,
yeah,
that's when it started crapping out.
Yeah, so two strikes you're out, kids, is the way and here's the thing. If this was a $30 product, I don't think so. Because I put a format.
Daniel said it could be an SD card incompatibility.
Yeah, but
just for our audio friends. Yeah,
I'll ask them. I'll contact them and say, here's what happened and here's why I'm sending it back, unless you can tell me what's going on. But I did. It's a whatever the SD card is, and I formatted it in there. I followed all the rules for that. And blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And that is one thing I think the Rode has a SD card tester, I think, or maybe that's Zoom. See, I'm getting them all confused. One of them has an SD card tester where you like, hey, is this good? Because that's one of the things. Like, you could have super. I mean, if this was super, this is so weird that I'm going to have to unplug this to get it to like die. Which also then makes me wonder what's going to happen to the recording that we just did on this.
You're not
the first. Yeah, I'm not. But I'm just like, if I wasn't doing this on StreamYard, I'd be screwed. So,
yes, you would be.
Yeah, interesting. And I mean, I'm gonna have to find another box so I can bleep myself out and sound like the voice of Satan, because I mean that's important in podcasting. If you can't sound like Satan or an elf, I mean, what are you going to do? How are you going to grow your audience without an elf noise?
I think you're going to be okay.
The two things it does, yeah, either that or I'm going to send this back, and then I'm like, hey, if you guys want me to continue to troubleshoot your product, send me one.
Yeah,
I've asked you twice.
I think a call to their tech support would be just because I think you may gain some insight from that call and see what they recommend, and we can try it again next week. If they say, oh no, that's a firmware, we know about that, or oh yeah, or whatever. You never know.
Yeah, that's true. Give them a chance. To me, always,
give it a chance. We'll see what you may learn some things through it, right? Type deal. Definitely, anyone listening to this conversation is not buying one of those.
Yeah.
But I think it's fair to give Tascam a chance to respond to this.
Right.
They're a good company. Like, they make good stuff. So it'd be good. I think it'd be good to give them a chance to troubleshoot it.
This will be fun editing. I'm just going to use the the audio from the video.
Oh yeah.
Originally, I was going to like use the first part from
Oh no.
the Tascam and then put
That's too much work.
Like, no,
You already do too much work for this show.
Like,
so
we're
yeah,
just going to take the audio
just
from.
strip it out. We'll have about 45 minutes of good audio.
Now, here's the question. Do I gain any ground? Because I mean, when you get done in StreamYard, you pretty much can download both the video and the audio. Now, I think the video is in SD format as opposed to HD, but I don't know what the audio is. But I don't know if I gain anything from waiting for YouTube to process the video.
No, it'd be worse. You get YouTube compression
on
it, and you wouldn't get the StreamYard compression. So your best bet, if you want to use audio only, just download the audio, because and then if you're gonna do both, do the video edits, like download the video, do the video edits, then just strip the audio out of that. That's the easiest way. I think that's the most time effective way to get that done. But you definitely want to get those from StreamYard. A little bit better quality.
Yeah. Daniel says, I bought a name brand Superfast Big micro SD for my Rodecaster Pro, but it can only record one episode. Future recordings fail after a few minutes unless I reformat. Interesting. And this is it's an old card. It came out of the sound devices. So
you might want to check the specs and ask them, do they require it? Because this could be the opposite direction of what I said. I thought initially they're using an old style SD card reader so that the hardware is old or it's cheap. They may actually have a good one in there, and a better one would require a certain kind of SD card, like certain format of it or certain type or whatever. You may want to check the requirements in the documentation for what's the minimum specs for the SD card, and then make sure your SD card is up to snuff.
Yeah.
Because it could be the SD card causing the problem. It absolutely could be. So it'd be worth, that's why I said it's probably worth troubleshooting a little bit just to see.
Yeah.
You hate to be that guy that, that goes off on this and then only to find out it was your SD card that was causing the problem to begin with, So
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, as somebody who works in support, you always want to give the company a chance to go.
Yeah.
And also if it is something that is like on their end, it's always interesting to see their response. Like, how open are they to, like, holy cow, can you are they really not excited, because you're never excited to hear your product is bonking out, but how open are they to like troubleshooting it? So
what kind of how
it sucks to be you, man. Oh, sorry.
Or the standard answer, it's not happening to me. Like, it's working here. Well, it's like I that's not why I called you, because I don't I don't want to know it's working for you. It's not working for me. So let's troubleshoot. So I would double check the list of their supported SD cards and see if that is. I've been guilty of that, where I've used, because I'm the king of using old equipment on stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, that's too old. And you're like, oh, okay, I got you now. So
if you're an awesome supporter, you will get an email from me as soon as I get out of this, because I was going to send this last night and then forgot. But there is another kind of private group coaching going on today at 1:00. So
awesome.
If you're around and you like, I would talk about this, but I don't want to do it in public. In 52 minutes.
All right.
Well, that'll be going on. So
we'll let you get to it. Let you get you some lunch.
All right, man.
All right, Dave.
Well, we'll see y'all later.
Good work. Take care. We'll see you next weekend.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.